Hello everybody, I am Chef Wisdom, and today I'm here to talk to you about retaining food temperature. What does retaining food temperature mean? Well, it means that you keep the food hot from the time it is cooked to the time it is served. And that makes the customer happy. I mean, how many of you like cold food? I know I don't, unless it is ice cream or a milkshake. Then I like it cold. But my soup, I don't like cold. My meat, I don't like cold. I like hot. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this learning film that we have created for you today. Thank you. See you soon. Primary temperature retention tools. It is a must that you calibrate these instruments and check them regularly. The commercial fridge thermometer, as you can see, tells you the temperature in your fridge. You can see on that one it goes hot and cold. But let's hope your fridge is not hot. That is how food goes bad. Commercial oven thermometer is next, and that tells you how hot your oven is getting. And then you know the food is cooking properly. The digital surface thermometer, basically you pull the trigger and point it at the surface and it will tell you the temperature of the surface of an object. The combination digital surface and stem do the same thing, except the stem you put into the food up to the ridge and it will give you the internal temperature of the food that you have just cooked or you are checking. The digital stem thermometer and bitherm stem thermometer are very similar, except one is digital and one is not digital. Again, you place it into the food up to the ridge line, and that is how you get a proper reading of the temperature of the food. And remember, no matter what you use to measure the food, make sure it is calibrated. And if the food falls in the dangerous temperature zone, between 41 and 135, follow procedure to take care of the situation. No bad food. Temperature retention equipment. You can see here is a steam table and a heat lamp. Remember when you fill the steam table not to fill it too high. If you do that, then the pans don't create a seal and it takes much longer to heat the water. Below that, you will see that there is cellophane, the steam bar for the steam table, and the foil. And below that, it is pans, pans, pans. Pans are wonderful, but tricky at the same time. You must make sure to know exactly what you're serving and what you're going to serve it in. And when you begin to serve it, cover it with tin foil or cellophane. And do not rip it off every time you serve the food. Peel it back gently so you maintain the seal and the heat and the temperature. I think you're beginning to understand. So we must fill the steam table with the right amount of water to create the seal and keep the food covered at all times to retain the temperature. Bueno. Now remember when you place the pans in the steam table that it always equals 1. Everything must equal 1. If you use a half pan, then you use 2 quarter pans. That equals 1 full pan. You have half pan, third pan, fourth pan, 2/3 pan, 1/6 pan, and 1/9 pan. You do the math. I don't know what your steam table looks like. This is a steam table diagram and service temperature log. This is a management tool to ensure that the steam table is configured properly and temperatures are being checked regularly. Before, during, and after. Yes, and after. And remember, the USDA says hot food at 135 or higher and cold food below 41 degrees. So 135 to 41 degrees is dangerous. You know that. Oh, and how hot do I keep the steam table, you might ask? As hot as you can! Keep the steam table on the highest setting. An hour prior to service, crank it up. Oh, this reminds me of one of my favorite Bob Marley songs. Stir it up, little server, stir it up. And why do you stir it up? To keep the hot food at the bottom on top. The food at the top gets cold over time, so you must continue to mix it so it stays hot. Stir it up, little server, stir it up.
Hey, Chef Wisdom, have you been foiled again?
Oh, you are quite a little jokester. I will tell you one thing, no. Foil is very important part of retaining the temperature. You must cover all food in foil or plastic and just peel it back as needed. No need to rip it off. And then you have nothing to cover the food and keep it warm. Peel back as needed. Remember?
Aren't you worried that foil plastic might fall into the food?
I am not worried at all because I am a very careful individual. But you, on the other hand, need to pay attention to what you are doing. Do not shred the foil so that it falls to pieces. Simply peel it. Peel it. Feel it and peel it. Remember that temperature loss occurs as soon as the food is cooked. Remember, food leaves a steam table pan onto the serving utensil, dished upon the plate, covered for delivery. In this entire process, food can lose temperature up to 10 degrees. Remember, get a head start as hot as possible without compromising the quality. Capiche?
Chef Wisdom, 10 degrees isn't that much.
What? 10 degrees is a lot. And it's not just 10 degrees, it's 10 degrees in every step of the process. So, it could be greater than 30 or 40 degrees temperature loss. Capiche? Remember, you must keep cold food frozen in the freezer until it is ready and pack any other cold food in ice on the steam table. That will maintain the temperature and make sure to serve cold food on cold plates. Cold, cold, hot, hot. Very good. So now we've gone through those simple steps. Say it. Simple. Do not forget them or your food will suffer temperature degradation. Say it with me. Temperature degradation. And that is not a good thing because temperature loss equals customer loss. Not good. We have prepared a movie much like Star Wars. We are putting the young Jedi chef through the training. So pay attention.
The Dark Side Kitchen is terrible. The food is piled too high. There are no covers on the food. This is not good. 1. Food is seated too high with no cover, and this does not allow for proper temperature retention. 2. No rail or bar. That does not allow a seal as well. High energy builds you will. 3. Water is filled too high and creates no seal as well. Look at the way that the pan rests above the rail. That is not good. This is no way to run a kitchen. But don't worry, we will use the force. Uncovered food. Steam is escaping. Temperature is being lost. Remember, in every step of the process, you can lose up to 10 degrees in your food. Just from it being uncovered, from it not being in the well properly, from bent corners, you can lose over 30 degrees in this entire process. And that is no way to serve proper food. Proper food must be hot. Hot food hot, cold food cold. That is the only way. I do not understand how people eat this way. Cold food is not good. Yoda not like. 1. Bent corners. That does not allow for a proper seal. 2. The cheese is not stirred from the bottom, and therefore you are not maximizing the hot food atop when you are serving it. 3. You are missing the guide, rail, or bar, and steam will escape. Bills increase, they will. 4. Pan inside of pan. That is not good. And 5. Cooked food is not being kept warm. No cover piled too high. No bar, steam escape. No seal, steam escape. Pan within pan. You cannot retain temperature that way. The food will just get cold. The cheese has not been stirred from the bottom. The corners are bent. Look, that is terrible. And there is no bar. Steam escape, food cold. Not the way of the Jedi. Let us use the Force. We are now using the Force to correct the issues. You place any type of meat in a loaf position so that it cooks evenly, and then you must cover it. This is the ways of the Jedi. Proper technique is to place product vertically as to retain temperature throughout the product, and then cover the food with foil or cellophane to preserve the temperature. Peel back the cellophane or foil, and be careful as not to allow the foil or plastic to fall into the food. Retain the shape of the foil and the cellophane. That is the only way. Preserve the temperature you must. Happy customers they will be. Now, we will address the issue of too much water in the well. Watch as he uses the force of his hand, and a cup to pull out the water as to even out the level of the pan inside of the steam well. This is good. The meatloaf has been covered, and the potatoes, they are being placed into equal pans. That is the proper way. They also will be covered. And that is how you retain temperature. This is the first thing you learn in Jedi Chef School. Place them into the steam well. Place a bar as it allows it to fit properly and creates a seal. This is good. Look at the tomatoes. It is a pan within a pan. And we will address the wrong size pan of cheese in a moment. We will remove the tomatoes and then remove the pan underneath it. Once the pan underneath has been removed and taken to be sanitized, we will cover the tomatoes. This is the only proper way to do it. That is using the force. Cover tomatoes, create proper seal as to retain heat within the pan, and place the pan back into the steam well. This is good. Now, we must address the issue of the cheese in the improper pan size. So, we have found a pan that fits properly, and we will place the cheese into that pan. And it is almost full. Let's go ahead and cover this now. Careful. Cover it. There we are. We will now place it into the well. But we still have the issue of no bar. So let's place the bar inside and put the tomatoes back. Now we have a proper seal that will allow steam to stay in the steam table. Remember to always stir from the bottom. That brings the hottest food to the surface. That is good. Well done. Temperature retained it is. Customer happy they are. I'm now sending it back to you, Chef Wisdom. May the Force be with you.
Oh, I love that movie. I love that movie so much. It is wonderful. Okay, so now back to the poster. We have covered some things in the poster you can see, you will remember, you will know forever, don't forget. And on to the rest of it. Now we are going to touch on the subject of plate rotation and serving hot food on hot plates and cold food on cold plates. So pay attention. Temperature retention serving equipment. First is a plate or pellet heater. How low rater can you go? Ha ha! I killed myself. Next is an air curtain or refrigerator. Air creates a curtain to preserve the temperature of the contents. Hot box. It is used for holding food, not for cooking, just like a steam table. Below that is an insulated plate and cover, great for room service, but make sure that the top is on tight. Next, an insulated coffee pot. If you want to serve cold product, then you would place ice in it prior to service. If you want to use hot product, then place boiling water in it prior to service. Next is an insulated food box. For hot food, warm it with boiling water. For cold food, place in the fridge prior to service. And the next is insulated tray serviceware. Great for tray service or room service, but always make sure that the lid is on tight. So now you are all professionals and know how to use the temperature retention serving equipment. But I know there's some goofballs in this audience that would like to just put hot boiling water inside of the insulated food box. But you must put it in a container inside of the insulated food box. Duh! And now we are going to go to one of the most important things, plate rotation.
That's a cool looking machine, but I don't have one of those in my kitchen. What am I supposed to do, Chef Wisdom?
Well, it is quite simple. If you do not have a lowrator to heat your plates, you can simply use the oven or the dish machine. But do not plate hot food on a wet dish. It is not a good idea.
Hey, Chef Wisdom, what is Tim doing with those plates?
Very good question. Tim is simply taking the coolest plates and putting them towards the bottom, and the hottest plates towards the top, because it is almost time for service. Capiche?
Oh, I get it. Hot on top, cold on bottom.
When plating your food, remember to serve hot food on a hot plate and cold food on cold plates.
Yeah, I know what you mean. One time I got served ice cream on a hot plate, and it melted before I got to eat it.
I am so sorry to hear that. Obviously, it was foolish. You should always keep hot plates and hot food together and cold plates and cold food together.
Yeah, I get it. They should have froze that plate or chilled it before they gave it to me.
Exactly. I'm so glad that you understand what I'm talking about. Remember when preparing a tray to keep the hot food with the hot food and the cold food with the cold food. It is quite simple. Look at your tray, draw a line down the center. Hot to the right, cold to the left. Very good.
Hi, Chef Wisdom. What is batch cooking?
Think of batch cooking as being at McDonald's. They serve hundreds of thousands of French fries in a day, but do not cook them all at one time. Batch cooking means that you are keeping the food hot and fresh and preparing it in batches. I know. There are so many diners. Let's plate all these plates at one time. That is not a good idea, though, because you can't serve all the food at one time. Do you see?
So if I plate them all at once, they'll lose temperature?
Precisely. You understand the concept. One plate to one customer, not 20 plates to one customer. So now we come to covering the food. Let me share with you a little song we sing in France when we are in the kitchen. Plate, food, cover, food. Plate, food, cover, food. Not plate, plate, plate. Cover, cover, cover. Plate, food, cover, food.
Hey, that's catchy. Plate, food, cover, food. Plate, food, cover, food. Not plate, plate, plate. Cover, cover, cover. Plate, food, cover, food. What's the difference between having a test meal or simply asking the customer?
Oh, that is a wonderful question. Now, this is the part where you grab your thermometer, preferably your digital or your STEM, and not your laser. The laser will only measure the temperature of the surface of the food, whereas the digital or the STEM goes inside of the food and measures the temperature inside of the food, which is what is important, right?
Oh, so I just poke it with the thermometer?
No, you must insert the thermometer up to the sensor, which on the thermometer is generally a dimple or a ridge. If you look along the elongated metal shaft, there is a dimple or a ridge. Put it into the food up to that point. A good way to find out if your food is the proper temperature is to ask your customers. For example,
Hi, I'm the manager. How is your food temperature today, sir?
My food temperature was wonderful. Thanks for asking. That means the world to me.
and so now you have simply asked the customer a question and they give you the honest response so you know how to fix a problem or if you're perfect like me. Well, we are almost done with this video, but there are a couple more things I want to share with you. Now, you know that there are two types of steam table, one that is driven by steam and one by air. So it's important to know which kind that you have. And once you find out what kind you have, you need to follow your manufacturer's recommendations. That is the only way to ensure that you know how to use the equipment properly. Now, here are some universal tips. Turn the steam table on 1 hour before the meal starts and check the water level. Check the dials and make sure that they are on at the highest setting. Cover the wells. You can use trays, lids, or sheet pans. It does not matter to me. Check the menu. You may have cold items on and need to ice the well also. Use a deep pan for the ice and a shallow pan for the product. Get a good head start and freeze the item about 30 minutes prior to the meal start. Set it up to flow with your assembly. Do not have gravy and meat on opposite ends. It makes no sense, you know? And so I'm going to be answering some questions from people in the audience here. So please, how about you? Yeah, chef, I have a question. I always seem to have a hard time serving breakfast. I can never get the eggs right or the toast right. Ah, that is a very good question. Now, first thing, when I come into a kitchen in the morning, I either set a timer to remind me to turn my plate heater on, Or I go do it as soon as I walk in. Also, with the toast, you want to make sure that you place it inside of a pan just like it is in a loaf so that it retains the heat throughout the loaf. Now, the other tip I can give you is to take a damp paper towel, place over the top, cover, put in the steam well. You're good to go. How about you, ma'am? Yes, Chef. Is a closed cart good for temperature retention? Ah, that is another good question. Is it hot or cold food or both? Well, I put both in it. Oh, then no good. You cannot have both hot and cold in the same thing. They are opposing forces. They will cancel each other out and you will not retain temperature. You understand? Oh, that makes sense. And how about you?
Yeah, my name's Dave, and I just have a real quick question here about, well, sometimes when I repan food, I feel like it loses temperature. Is there any way to avoid that?
Oh, of course, Dave. When you pan hot food, you want to put it into a hot pan. When you pan cold food, you want it in a cold pan. This is the only way to ensure the temperature is retained. Otherwise, again, opposing forces. It is not good to have opposing forces, right? We want to keep the hot food hot, the cold food cold. I'm sorry, but we're all out of time today for questions. But I thank you so much for tuning in with Q&A with the chef.
Thank you, Chef Wisdom, for all the great information and tips. My customers are going to be raving about my food temperatures.
Well, I am glad that you learned so much today, and then you can implement it in your kitchen. That is what is important, that you learn from today and you know how to retain temperature properly. So once again, I thank you for being here with me, and I thank you out in the audience for listening to us today. We have shared a lot of great and useful information. I can't wait to see you again in the future.
Bye-bye.